How is it going, everybody? If you look at the title of this video, yes, it may come across as a little bit dramatic. You might be thinking it's a little bit hyperbole. You might be saying, hey, dude, you're just being negative. You want games to fail before they even come out. You're not giving these games a chance. I heard it with Concord. I heard it with Highguard. I heard it with all of these live service games coming out that I've been crapping on, and, you know, there are certainly live service games that I don't completely crap on. I was talking up Helldivers 2 well before a lot of other people on the internet. I've been talking up Marathon in the sense that I don't think that game is dead on arrival like a lot of other people seem to think it is. I do question the long-term viability of that game. However, in regards to PlayStation in particular and their live service games, I'm not talking about necessarily them publishing a game like Arrowhead's Helldivers 2, which Helldivers 2 very much retained the essence of Helldivers. I'm not talking about them adding live service elements to a Gran Turismo 7, an established IP. What I am talking about is them going so full board with the live service games, and this includes games that ultimately got canceled, alright? Just because those games didn't come out doesn't mean there wasn't damage done. Where I'm talking about games like Concord, which screw you wanting a new Killzone game and other multiplayer shooters being brought back. You're gonna take Concord, you're gonna like it, you're gonna identify with these heroes because that's what we believe will generate a lot of revenue for the long-term future and how we can monetize a game from microtransactions. Concord was that for them. I'm sure Fair Game is that for them. I'm sure whatever Sony Bend Studio was working on was that for them. Bluepoint, you guys remember them? They did the great Demon Souls remake. Well, they were reportedly working on a God of War live service game. Of course, we had Naughty Dog doing Last of Us Factions as well, which I would have actually liked to see that come out given what they were able to do with the Last of Us multiplayer title back in 2013 with factions just being built into Last of Us. I thought that was very well done, but that got canceled as well. And now we have Guerrilla Games as Horizon Hunters Gathering. And why I have this vehement reaction towards a lot of these live service projects is that it's not just these games existing. I think some of you guys are also failing to assess the consequences of these games existing because of what it's doing to these studios. Sony Bend Studio put out Days Gone in 2019. For how many years have people been begging for a Days Gone 2? You want to know why that didn't happen and why Bend Studio didn't do a new single-player game? It's because they've been working on this live service title that ultimately got canceled. And I don't know if Bend Studio is going to end up ever releasing another game, but what I do know is 7 years gone with the wind and there was no Bend Studio title. And quite possibly the most humorous part about the Bend Studio saga is that, hey, you guys wanted Days Gone 2? You ain't getting Days Gone 2. Oh, we kind of iced Bend Studio for the last 6 or 7 years. We gotta monetize their content somehow. Here's Days Gone Remastered. Pay us $10 for that, or if you want to buy it outright, that's back up to $50 now. So that's how they're monetizing the Bend Studio content, because they just got ice for all that many years, while you're probably never gonna get a Days Gone 2. And I'm not here to argue, this is what Bend Studio wanted to do. Whatever, whoever made the bad decision is irrelevant. It was a awful decision, and it iced Bend Studio for all those years. It's iced Bluepoint for so many years. Bluepoint hasn't put out a game in 5.5 years, and that game was Demon Souls Remake back in 2020. I don't know how many years they spent on the God of War live service game, but you would have to imagine that they've been iced. Naughty Dog hasn't put out a game since summer of 2020, and Intergalactic at best is coming out mid-2027, so it'll be 7 years in between games for them. Guerrilla last put out a Horizon Forbidden West in 2022. That's 4 years ago at this point. Next year, it'll be 5 years since the release of Forbidden West, and that's generally around the time that the turnaround for these game sequels is. Around 4.5 to 5 years. Does anybody really think Horizon 3 is gonna come out by early 2027? I'm ready to wrap up Horizon as a trilogy. Horizon Zero Dawn got revealed in 2015. It is now 2026, and we are waiting for Aloy's story to be wrapped up. Let's get this story wrapped up. I know that they have people working on the third Horizon title, but you'd be kidding yourself if you don't think that some of the development of Horizon got stunted for Horizon Hunters Gathering. This is done by Guerrilla. This isn't a title that's being done by a second studio like NC Soft working on the Horizon Steel Frontiers game. No, this is a live service game being done by Guerrilla. And beyond all of that, think about all of these resources being invested into live service games. Concord, Fair Game, canceled Naughty Dog title, canceled Ben Studio title, canceled God of War live service game, now Horizon Hunters Gathering. Take all of those resources and then think about all of the IPs that have been dormant and they've done nothing with it. I've wanted a Gravity Rush 3 for how many years? And sure, is Gravity Rush 3 gonna be the biggest game in the world? No, it's not. But guess what? You're not gonna get a Gravity Rush 3. You're not gonna get a new Jack. You're not gonna get any of these new games that you might want. A new Sly, so on and so forth. Resistance, Killzone, and mind you, why a Resistance remaster won't happen, why a Killzone 2 remaster won't happen is because if they were to bring those games back, and if they were to bring them back with their multiplayer form, that would eat into the game hours that you could invest into playing their live service games, and those live service games are ultimately games that they can monetize. They cannot monetize Killzone 2 if they were to do a remaster for the long term, but they oh so dream of putting out a game like Concord where they can monetize that game for years and years. And if a Concord is successful, if a Horizon Hunters and Gathering is successful, guess what? That pipe dream of Killzone 2 remaster ever happening, it becomes more of a pipe dream because they want you to be invested into those games. And every time a game like this comes out and it is potentially successful, and I get it, people will go back to Helldivers 2 being a success. I don't think Helldivers 2 was a game that really impacted the identity of what Arrowhead is. Horizon Hunters Gathering, to me, butchers the identity of what Horizon is and the artistic direction of Horizon. I know some people like the art direction, but at the very least, it's very divisive. Beyond all of that, if a Horizon Hunters Gathering is successful, if a Concord is successful, if a Fair Game is successful, you know the direction that Sony is gonna go. Then it's gonna be even more or less emphasis on their big single-player titles. And I get it, they have big single-player games coming out, Soros, Wolverine, so on and so forth, but they will certainly look at that and be like, man, Horizon Hunters Gathering is successful. We can definitely get Santa Monica to work on something live service. We can get this studio, that studio, or we can invest in the creation of a new studio to create more live service titles. That's why I know some of you guys might think it's wrong for me to cheer on the downfall on some of these games, but I know Sony in their head, if they score a W with one of these live service titles, if they score a W with a Concord, with a Horizon Hunters Gathering, that reinforces their direction on doing more live service games. That would reinforce their direction on benching doing single player games. And also, remember historically, in the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 era, there was really an incentive to do single-player exclusives because the idea is that you create these single-player exclusives and you hope that they make money in a vacuum. That's great. But more than that, they're used as a value proposition to get people to pick their console over the other console because they have those games. Thus, you draw people into your ecosystem and then you passively generate revenue within that ecosystem by selling other games from third parties, PlayStation Plus subscriptions, etc. That incentive to now draw people into your ecosystem just doesn't exist as much as it used to because Xbox is a non-factor, a pretty much non-factor at this stage of the game. They're releasing all their games on their platform, so I understand why they're going the live service route. You can explain to me, oh, we're going live service because of this reason, that reason, look at how much money this game made, that game made, but from a selfish standpoint, I cannot want these games to be successful because I know what it's going to do. It is going to reinforce them doing more and more and more live service games, and that's not what I want from PlayStation. Why is it that a lot of you guys became PlayStation fans? I don't think it was because of these live service games. Yeah, a lot of you guys loved Killzone 2. I loved Killzone 2. One of my favorite multiplayer games, quite possibly my favorite multiplayer game of all time. But also, people were drawn into a lot of these single-player games, and to me, these live service games just feel like they're chasing that trend. It feels like they're chasing that microtransaction bag, and I can understand from a business standpoint why that decision was made. I can understand that doing your single player games, they have a ceiling as far as how much revenue you can generate, and they're getting more and more expensive, and you don't even need them as much as you did in the past to draw people into your ecosystem versus the others. However, from a selfish standpoint, I want these single player games. I want Sony at their best. I want Bluepoint to be dropping remakes that are incredibly well received like they did with SOTC and like they did with Demon's Souls. I want Ben Studio to do compelling single player games. Hell, give me a remaster of Uncharted Golden Abyss if nothing else. I don't want them benched for 6 or 7 years doing a live service game. Even if I'm not super stoked for Intergalactic, I want Naughty Dog what Naughty Dog has done best with their proven track record of doing compelling narrative-driven single-player games. I don't want Guerrilla Games to take 7, 8 years to put out Horizon 3 to wrap up this Horizon trilogy because some of their manpower is focused and allocated on working on this live service game. Get me Horizon 3 already. Next year is gonna be 5 years since Horizon 2 came out. And then Santa Monica, you know, they're working on the God of War title, but again, Bluepoint working on a God of War live service game, and you know if God of War went live service and it was a huge W, what would that mean? I am fearful of Sony scoring Ws with these live service games, because ultimately, that is going to reinforce this decision, and that's why I'm happy that Concord failed. You want to call me somebody that's like, oh no, you want games to fail? Fine, have that opinion. I want games to fail. Guess what? If these games failing ultimately pivots Sony back into the direction that me selfishly I appreciate Sony for, the single-player marquee games, which, again, I will concede, they still have been doing them, but you look at years like 2024, where we only got one major single-player first-party title, 2023, one major single-player first-party title, and then ultimately, if they didn't allocate so many resources to live service games, and they allocated resources to, I don't know, maybe figuring out how to get some of these PS3 games remastered on PlayStation 5, I don't know, maybe creating a studio to work on a game of a dormant IP and trying to revitalize that IP, there's ways that I would imagine these resources could be allocated that you would appreciate, that I would appreciate it, and selfishly, that's what I want. Maybe you want Horizon Hunters Gathering to be successful, maybe you want Fair Game to be successful, maybe you want Concord to be successful, and look, I get it that it's very easy to do the blanket statement of, oh, all live service games are bad. I don't think that. Again, I talked up Helldivers 2 well before that game came out. I thought Sony should have done more in promoting that game, and surprise, surprise, that game was a huge success. I'm not as down on Marathon as a lot of other people. I think live service games can work. I think they have a place to exist. It's just this, oh my god, sink so much into live service, and that's a core business philosophy, and then you get games like Horizon Hunters Gathering, which, by the way, you take a IP that's established like Horizon, and from an aesthetic and art direction standpoint, to me, you just completely bastardize it. This is not what people are drawn into Horizon for, and sure, you could say, hey, I like the art style. That's just your opinion, man. Guess what? Look at the comment section on the Horizon Hunters Gathering announcement trailer. You want to go through them again? Guerrilla Team, please blink twice if you're in danger. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Horizon Forbidden Wallet. How many millions lost will it take to learn this lesson? The bravest thing about this trailer is leaving the comment section open. Art style looks like a cereal commercial for Horizon Puff. Horizon, 0 players. Why does nobody tell them before they put a whole team to work on it? I don't get it. You think that's just the vocal minority? That's just people in the YouTube comment section being mean, and you guys want games to fail before they start. Well, when you actually assess the consequences of this generation because of live service, I think you can understand why people want these games to fail, and it's not rocket science. And if I come across a little harsh about it, oh, you can't judge a game before it comes out, even though promotional material is put out there for people to judge and passed as prologue in a lot of instances. And how many times have we been proven right about these live service games and the influx of live service games and so many of the favorite PlayStation IPs in history being benched? And why did so many people get into PlayStation in the first place? And I get it, the biggest PlayStation games are the Call of Duties, are the NBAs, are the FIFAs, are a lot of these live service experiences, but for the core consumer, the core games that drew us into playing PlayStation games, and picking PlayStation over Xbox in a lot of instances, it was games like Uncharted, it was games like God of War, it was games like Days Gone. Yes, Days Gone in fact did sell very well. It was games like the single-player Horizon experience, and it was the classic style of multiplayer experiences like Killzone and Resistance that people so desperately want a remaster of, and the chance of you getting those remasters, virtually 0, because guess what? That would eat into your live service multiplayer hours that you gotta be spending on those games. But that's gonna do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you for watching. Sound off down below, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.